Hi friends, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Shayna Farmer, and together with my family, we're here to cultivate love. We do that by leaving the largest impact on this planet, by also leaving behind the smallest footprint. And we like to talk about the lessons that we have learned in our lives to inspire others to live their life as authentically and free as possible. Today is a big topic that I've been excited to talk about for a while now, and that's homeschooling. I have been homeschooling our younger beings officially now for over a year, and I think I'm ready to talk about it. So stay tuned. We're going to talk to Ellie and Robby. They're going to tell us what they think, and we're going to have a discussion about homeschool. I'd like to start off by going over why I personally decided to homeschool. I feel that we will talk to Eliana and Robby about their opinions, but I would like to first talk about the decision for me as a parent and where this came from, why we wanted to start homeschooling. For those who don't know or don't know us, we have two children, me and my partner Rob. Eliana is 13 and Robby is 9. We have been homeschooling officially for a year. And so when we started homeschooling, Eliana was 12 and Robby was 8. And the decision to homeschool was actually something that we had discussed for many years. I have been staying home with Eliana and Robby since 2015. I was blessed with the opportunity, or we were blessed with the opportunity to go from a 2-income family to a 1-income family by making some financial sacrifices. By limiting our budget and having less expenses, we were able to afford to have me stay home, which is not something that we were ever able to do previously. And by doing so, I was able to spend a lot more time with Eliana and Robby. They were still both going to school when this started, and I was working part-time. But I was able to be with them before and after school, which was something that I was never able to do previously. But by being able to be around them a lot more, I was also able to see them before and after school, and particularly their internal emotional responses or how they were feeling before and after school very clearly. And the part of all this, or the part of everything that actually started getting my brain turning over to the homeschool idea, was how they were coming home every day. Eliana and Robby are very happy, joyous human beings. Robby has a laugh. When he really laughs, that can light up an entire room. Eliana can entertain and light up just anyone she speaks to. And these beautiful souls were coming home every day, exhausted and depleted of all of their energy. It was this change in their behavior, attitude, overall demeanor within their soul that got me and Rob to having this discussion about whether homeschooling was the right decision for us. From a logistical point of view, it would require me to not do those part-time jobs any longer and for me to be home full-time with them. And so for us, it was adjusting to the change that was needed. Let's talk about the school system. That alone right there was something that, even having this discussion is nerve-wracking for me. Everybody has their own experiences in life, and this This is ours. We moved to the town that we live in now back in 2015. And when we changed school systems, Eliana was in 2nd grade. Robby was not in school yet. And the town that we live in had a much more supportive school system. And so for those first, 2nd and 3rd grade, Eliana was really thriving. In our previous school system, she did fine too, but there were some, they did Common Core math and things that I actually couldn't help her with because it didn't make sense to me. Went to college, worked in banking, and Common Core math didn't make sense to me. So that was a struggle. So we moved to the new town, and that wasn't a problem anymore. We didn't have any more issues with the education side of it, as far as we knew. It actually wasn't until Robby went into school and we started noticing how he wasn't as adaptable as Eliana was. And adaptable is just the word that I can think of right now. He wasn't able to be programmed as easily as Eliana, is a different way of saying it. He struggled with the do this, do this, do this. I will not give you a reason. You just have to do it. Because we've always raised our children to ask questions. We've raised them to be curious. We have not taught them that we as parents are an authoritative figure and that everything that we say is what they should listen to. But that's what the school system was trying to teach them. And so when Robby started coming home struggling because he was getting reprimanded for things that I personally would never reprimand a child for, we really started to have to rethink why we were allowing the public school system to educate our children. We, as parents, as taxpayers, as the people of this country, we are who decides how our children are educated. And yet, do we know what they're being taught? Do we? Personally, from my experience with 2 children of different ages and genders in the school system, they were taught things based on the teacher that they had. We finally made the decision to homeschool based on one main concept. We, as parents, wanted to actually be able to control what our children were learning. We found that within the school system, they were learning certain subjects, certain things, just so they could take tests on it. I don't know if people realize this before their kids get into the school system, but standardized testing is a very large focus of the public school system. The grades and the scores that those children get on those standardized testing is what determines whether the school system gets more funding, less funding. It even determines whether teachers get a salary raise. And that was the tipping point for us to say, we need to take them out of the public school system. We need to educate them on topics that we have learned in our years to be important things to know. U.S. history and world history and the history of indigenous cultures and everyday practical mathematics and spelling and reading and art and so many different things that couldn't be taught because the focus was on a test and the focus was on a score. And so we made the decision to pull them out of the school system in February of 2020. And in order to free them of the obligation to get these scores, we took them on a 1-month road trip. Me, Ellie, Robby, and at the time a friend and her children got in a car, and we went from Maine to Florida with the intention for us to shake off the school system. The feeling of getting in trouble, I now realize that I had, was from the school system. Everything that we did growing up in high school, middle school, elementary school was watched. And there was always the fear of getting in trouble. That was my experience. And I didn't want Eliana and Robby to feel that. I wanted them to feel free. Ultimately, we decided to homeschool Eliana and Robby to give them back their power and to give them back their voice. At some point in my educational career, my voice was taken away. The school system gave me one option. You educate yourself, you go to college, you get a 9-to-5 job, and you save up until retirement. That is the model that we are taught within the educational school system. That's not life. That's not how life works. And by indoctrinating children into this program, we are teaching them that they don't have a choice. And we're not doing it. And so we decided to homeschool. I do want to share with you some of the legalities of homeschooling. I speak now only for the state of Rhode Island because that is where I live. I encourage you to look into your local state to see what your local ordinances are, the things that are required to homeschool. Here in Rhode Island, we actually have a pretty, when researching throughout the country what the homeschool requirements are, Rhode Island actually has a pretty strict guideline. I had absolutely no idea what to do. I didn't know anyone that homeschooled. I had no knowledge of how to do so. I came across enrichri.org. I will leave it below. They also have a Facebook group. This is a organization who support the homeschool community to the extent that they actually help with the paperwork, the education of the student, and they help you as a parent. They help be an advocate with you to the school system if the school system in some way, shape, or form tries to fight back about you homeschooling. Because many people don't realize that homeschooling is your right as a parent. You do not have to put your child into the public school system. You do not have to have your child educated in the public school system. Within the state of Rhode Island, the requirements for you when teaching your child is to teach them the following subjects. I'm going to list all this information below so you do have it, but I just wanted to go over this as well. The subjects you must teach your child is reading, writing, geography, arithmetic, history of the United States, history of Rhode Island, the principles of American government, civics, health, and physical education. Those are the required topics according to the state of Rhode Island. Just those topics. You, as the parent and educator, get to decide what aspects of those subjects you teach your child. If your child is interested in history, you can spend more time going over history than you do about math. The key for us in educating at home is to allow our children to study what interests them. I wanted to include some of Robbie and Ellie's opinion in this video because when it comes down to it, homeschooling is really about them and not about me. Right?
Right. The only goss out there.
So, I have a question. What do you think of homeschooling?
I think it's great.
You do?
Because I feel like my opinion is like I can do projects. I don't have to study math. I can do stuff I really want to do. Like make a ninja star if I wanted to, and like learning.
Yeah.
And learning on the way. Like how to use tools, and it's more funner than sitting in the classroom reading textbooks.
I have to agree with that one. Can you share with me what your favorite part about the public school system was?
My favorite just seeing my friends, or eating lunch. Because I got out of the school and got to see my friends.
Eating lunch and seeing friends, okay. And what did you not like about the public school system?
Everything else.
Everything else. What specifically?
It's just, you sat in the classroom, like, reading, and then you're doing tests, and then you get stressed out because you're trying to get the best of grades, and they always told you about college, and, like, if you don't get good grades, you won't get a good college, and then you're just stressed.
So you, as a second grader, was told that you had to get good grades for college.
They were, like, always putting that on us, like, stress.
Yeah.
And the parents told us that, too, so it just got even more.
Yeah, it does get stressful. And what is your favorite part about homeschool?
A lot.
Just one thing.
All the projects I can do and I'm learning.
What's the worst part about homeschool?
I can't see my friends all the time.
Yeah, that's tough.
Because they're at school, but at least I have one that's not.
Yeah. Yes, we do. We have found a few homeschool friends.
On her path.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me about homeschool?
One.
Yeah.
How long is it?
How long is what?
Homeschool.
It's as long as regular school. That's actually a question. So, you are required every year to be in school or to be educated 180 days out of the year. As a parent, you decide how many of those when those 180 days are. For us personally, we do a lot more one-on-one education when it's warm out. We do a lot of things outside. We have a garden and we have animals, and we do a lot of our learning based on those things.
Winter is more like chill and sun kind of thing.
Yeah, winter is when we do a lot of our studying. Crafts. You guys, Ellie and Robby tried to learn the guitar over winter, or we do a lot of library visits in the winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love libraries.
But it's 180 days that you have to educate, and so, to answer your question about how long you have to be in school, you as a parent have to send in information to the town. You let them know that you've educated them for 180 days, that they have passed that school year, and that they move on to the next. So we, as parents, are requiring our children to graduate high school. While they are homeschooled, so to answer your question, they will still be homeschooled throughout high school, but when they come to the end of their 12th year, which will do it for 12 years, we sign their high school diploma. And that diploma is accepted at any college in the country, if that's what you decide to do. We don't require our children to go to college. We are teaching them the importance of vocational school, of trade work, of artistry, of whatever their little hearts desire.
And my dad didn't want to college, and he still got a lot of jobs because everybody's depending because you think you have like no jobs. They teach you that you have no jobs, you don't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a job, my dad, he's been through He's got an electric bowl. He went through like all different jobs.
Rob does trades. He was a man. He's plumbing, heating, pipe fitting. I mean, the man has worked in electrical, alarm systems. Robbie's point being, he went to he did not go to college, and he got a job, and so it was tough for, I think, Robbie to be in the school system because he was being told at home that you can be anything you want, and at school he was being told you can only be something if you go to college. Right? Is that fair to say?
And then it was kind of hard religion. And it was just like, God, I don't believe in God. I believe we're all gods. I believe God was a person, but with the things he done, I don't believe that was true. I believe we're all gods.
So you didn't like when you were being told what to believe?
Because they taught us about it, and I didn't want to learn about it because I didn't believe in it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't believe religion should be taught in schools ever. That's not the purpose of school.
I believe we should. I believe schools should be somewhat like private school, but better. Like
private school, yeah. Private schools. When it's a private school, they get to decide what they teach because that school is funded by the people who pay for that school.
Yeah, they get to. If they like art, they can learn about printing. What does it look like if it was printed and.
Correct. But with the public school system is funded by our tax dollars. So we, the people, are what decide gets taught.
And sometimes I don't like that. I like homeschool because it's like public. It's like I get to meet people. We're probably gonna go on a journey in the winter, and we get to visit places that I've never seen before.
We have much more flexibility when it comes to homeschooling. Our school day can be sitting down and, I mean, Robbie has math workbooks that he works on when he's bored sometimes.
When I'm not doing anything.
When he's not doing anything productive, he does math workbooks. But they can watch educational YouTube videos on any subject they want. They can build anything that they want. They can, the thing that we do limit is we do not actually have video games in the house. And we only have one television, and it's kept in a common area. And even then, maybe a couple times a week you watch something?
We watch maybe a movie every couple days. Yeah.
We try to get a lot of their education based on what's around us and less electronic time.
We have to work. We have to get a bucket of leaves and then put in chickens for 20 minutes. And then
we do a system here personally that in order for them to earn free electronic time where they can watch videos about whatever, they can play Minecraft, or they actually have to do chores in order to earn the time to do that. And that's really because we're trying to teach them that the reward from doing work. I mean, that part of that feel-good feeling from getting the work done comes because of whatever that reward is that you do get afterward. Do you have any questions for me?
No.
Do you have anything else you want to share with the world about homeschooling?
Maybe one.
What?
You should start homeschooling. It's a lot more fun. And you get to learn what your children have learned, and we'll learn what they're going through.
Great. Well, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for sharing your opinion.
Okay.
Thank you for being one of my humans.
Welcome.
I love you.
Yeah, I love you. Hi, I'm Eliana. In case you don't know me, this is my mom.
So I already talked to Robbie about his thoughts, opinions on school. So I would like to ask you a few questions, and then you can say anything you want to say.
Are any other trick questions?
No trick questions.
Okay.
What was your favorite part about the public school system?
Being able to hang out with people all the time. And as you got older, how it got less and less strict, so you could hang out with more people more often.
Okay. And what was your least favorite part of the public school system?
Waiting for lunch. Because you always got a headache just listening to teachers ramble on while you were waiting for lunch.
What is your favorite part about homeschool?
Being able to try out new things that I wouldn't if I was at school for, like, the entire day.
Okay. And what is your least favorite part about homeschool?
Hard one. Probably listening to Mom yell at 6 o'clock in the morning.
You're never up at 6 a.m.
But I hear you yell.
Yeah, no you don't.
Yeah, I
What do
do.
I yell about?
Callie.
Oh, well,
Making coffee all the time. Grinding beans.
that's not yelling. That's
Making
just,
smoothies.
that's not yelling.
Speaking in high-pitched voices.
That's just my voice.
That's not true.
Is there anything else you want to say? Is there anything you want to add to our homeschool discussion?
I feel like when you're homeschooled, people kind of think of it as, like, it's difficult. But really, it was kind of difficult at the start because we really didn't know each other at all. But as we got to know each other better, instead of, like, the mom I remembered when I was 5, when I started school, we got to almost reintroduce ourselves to each other and figure out who we were and what worked for us. Because, like, the way we do homeschool and the way my parents parent probably won't work for any of you, or it might, but it's not. It's almost finding out what works for you and then helping our family as a unit find out what works for us, instead of trying to find out what works for us first. Because if we did that, it wouldn't work for us, and then we just get frustrated at each other.
Yeah, so I explained that the two major reasons why we decided to homeschool is because we wanted to encourage authenticity and freedom, which I think are the two main things that the public school system takes away. Everyone just becomes a number, and a number that has to follow a black and white rule.
Yeah,
And this world is not black and white.
they were saying that public schools originally, when they were created, was to train people to work in factories, specifically because they wanted agreeable workers to follow rules, like, by their managers easier, and they figured it was easier for them to have a teacher doing that all day and then go to a factory and have the same thing.
A lot of people actually think the public school system was founded in small private towns, and it was parents just trying to educate their children, which did happen in some cases, but the public school system officially started in the United States based on the corporate factories, particularly for us here in Rhode Island. Slater Mill is right in Pawtucket. That was one of the first major industrial mills in the country. And so we here in Rhode Island are essentially a hub of where the educational school system started. And it was started, as Eliana just said, to indoctrinate people into the workforce.
Yeah.
And as we have said, or as I have gone over in this video, we don't want to indoctrinate our kids into a workforce. We want them to be free, to be their authentic selves in whatever context that means. Eliana can be a hairdresser. Eliana can be a veterinarian. Eliana can study soil and live in a yurt in the woods. You can
forget woods at Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam, your ability to succeed in life should not correlate to a public education.
I was reading an article, and they were saying that 35% of 12th graders that are about to graduate know how to read efficiently for their grade level, and it was something like 21% or something really low, like 25% knew how to do efficient math for their grade level.
And they were saying that now teachers are starting to get worried that they are unprepared for going to college, even though a lot of them are still getting into colleges and learning after high school.
So that means that 65% of students who graduate high school aren't proficient in reading.
Yeah.
And 75% aren't proficient in math.
Like only 44% or something of 11th graders actually even were excited about it, and it was more like people were just feeling pressured.
So how do you feel about learning? How did you feel about learning when you were in the school system?
I thought it was great, but that was only because I was smart.
But how did you feel about the material taught? Were you challenged?
No, not at all. I mean, math has always been a little bit of a challenge for me, but I always was, I guess, a fast learner. Not to, like, toot my own horn or anything. So I kind of it would maybe took me, like, a day to pick up on it, but once I got it, I had it forever. So that was literally the only challenge I ever had. And then in, like, reading, I was, like, in 8th grade reading level, in 6th grade or 9th grade or something. And they had me, like, in all the tests, they had me, like, reading all these really hard things that I'm now reading now and realizing how easy they were. But I just didn't want to read them because I felt pressured to read them on those tests. But then that was, like, the only challenge I got all year, which was 3 tests throughout the year.
And is this the standardized testing?
Yeah. We had a beginning of school test, a middle of school test, and then end of school test. And that's basically that's how they found out that they were doing their job correctly. But I was learning things in 6th grade, like relearning things that I had already known since 2nd grade. Like, I didn't need to learn what a climax was for the 5th time.
And how do you find... So, I don't know if I've explained this yet, but the way that we are schooling Ellie and Robby at home is they do decide what they want to study. Can you tell everyone a little bit about what you've studied since this past year since you've been home?
Oh,
and I also,
so
hold on one
much.
second. I also just want to say this isn't led by me. We actually have told Eliana and Robby that we want them to take more responsibility for what they want to know. And so they will turn to us and ask us advice or ask for help on a subject, but they decide the subjects they want to learn. And so with that being said, can you explain some of the stuff you've learned?
Well, shortly after getting out of school, and, like, after we went on the trip and stuff, I found that, like, I couldn't really eat a lot of food, because after eating a lot of fast food for, like, a month and hotel food, it was just kind of, like, upsetting,
Yeah.
I guess. Especially from eating super well and then going out for a month and eating
That was last
trash.
February 2020, we went on that homeschool trip.
So recently I've been experimenting with different diets, right now I'm experimenting with kind of a pescatarian style diet, but it's also helped me have more time for me in general. Like, I can go and have 2 hours a day to do yoga and still have plenty of time to do whatever I want the rest of the day. I've also been learning a lot of, reading, because it's fun to challenge myself in certain areas. So I've been reading a lot of poetry, because before I had no clue how to understand poetry at all. Except for, like, all this very simple New Age stuff. I've been reading a lot of classic literature because that's been fun to challenge myself.
If anything, the only thing that we really do for a curriculum is about 6 months ago, every time I went to the library, Eliana was only getting, like, her young adult books that, you know those, she was only getting the books that she wanted to read for pleasure. They weren't necessarily anything that would expand her mind. And so I started picking up poetry books at the library. And that was when, it was Ellie's suggestion. She asked me she said, well, if you want me to read something else, then pick it out. And I said, all right. And so I started picking out some poetry books. And then once I did that, now you just pick up any book that you find interesting. Like we get books on like doing crafts. We get books on.
I've been reading a lot of there are some books that are kind of classics that I've heard were hard and then started and been like, this is so boring, like Pride and Prejudice. I was like, the only fun part is when Mr. Darcy is there. And then other than that, everyone's just getting offended. So, and certain books, like, I really like F. Scott Fitzgerald. Like, The Great Gatsby is one of my favorites. But that's probably just because all the characters are, like, psychopaths and sociopaths.
True.
And I started reading The Invisible Man, which is actually one of the ones I got tested on. And I thought it was so easy. And it actually is really easy. But I'm like halfway through it, 3/4 of the way through it. I pick it up when I'm bored.
Yeah.
I also read the dictionary sometimes. Because I
Why
like to learn new words.
Is there anything else that you would like the world to know about your particular experience with the education system and now homeschooling?
I feel like when I was in a public school environment, I definitely felt pressure to be someone who I wasn't. And it actually ended up making, like, I would go to school every morning, and me and Mom would have, like, screaming fights before I go to school, and then I'd hop on the bus.
Can I correct
and,
that?
like...
Eliana would have screaming fights. I am not a screamer. Go ahead.
And then I'd get on the bus, and it would be, like, a switch, like, I flipped a switch, and then I would be able to, like, pretend like it never happened. But then as soon as I got home, I'd have, like, major headaches, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. And I'd have, like, panic attacks over homework, even though I already knew how to do it. I just didn't want to.
So what would happen a lot last year, this is one of the things that actually, the deciding factor for me was Eliana. I would always tell her not to do the homework. I mean, she came home with perfect grades. Why does she have to do the homework? For me, that, like, the teachers had told her they wanted them to have 2 hours of homework a night. After they've been at school for 6 hours a day and taken a 45-minute bus ride to and from school.
Yeah, so I'd get home at 4 o'clock when all my friends were getting home at 3. I'd have to wake up at 6 o'clock and get on the bus by 7 while all my friends were getting on at 8, and it was just exhausting.
It was a lot. But the thing that ended up making me talk to them about homeschooling was Eliana came home from school about a month before we started homeschooling, and we were walking home from the bus stop, and she was complaining that she had a headache, to the point where she was just looking at me and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, my head just won't stop hurting. And she was upset, and so we walked home, and we walked in the door, and she turned around with tears still in her eyes and said, my head stopped hurting as soon as I stepped in the door. Remember that?
Only because you just told it.
And that moment for me was a moment of what was going on inside was causing physical pain to her. That when she got home and got into her safe space, that pain went away. And it was the moment of me going, well, if she's safe here and school's causing that headache, we gotta try it.
I wasn't even gonna go originally. Mom was like, you can stay home with Dad, and I was like, I will. And Mom was like, it's fine, we'll get you a little phone so that way you can get Dad's, like, contact, and I'd be like, boom, 2 wishes in one. And then they were about to leave, and they had, like, 1 extra seat or whatever, specifically because there was gonna be extra room in case, I decided. And then Mom was like, oh, well, we're gonna go and have all these fun adventures. And I was like, you know what, you can't just leave me out. And I was like, and even if I don't end up liking it, at least I still get, like, a month of traveling. And then I can just go back.
Ellie and Robby do have the option to go back into the school system whenever they'd like. In the state of Rhode Island, when you can go back into the school system at any point. But if they decide to do that, they know they're going back to all the testing and all the requirements. We
And I also know that if I did it, it would have to be something for me particularly. Like, I'm not going to expect mom to wake up and drive me to the bus stop or, like, be all soccer mom on me.
Do you have any other questions or anything else to say about homeschool or public school? She has a lot to say, a lot.
Yeah. I guess to just find out what works for you, because we didn't make this video to say that homeschooling is right and public school is wrong. Public schooling does work for some kids, and I can honestly say that it probably would have worked for me. I just wouldn't have been as happy as I was now. And I wouldn't have known myself to the extent that I do now. And I also know that when we first started, it was really, really difficult. I'm not going to say that it's been all, like...
A lot of arguments.
Yeah, fun and relaxing.
I found the challenge was that they just wanted to be told what to do. And the whole point of me wanting to homeschool them was so that they didn't have to be told what to do. That they could be free and not have to be within those confines.
Yeah, and so basically I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you don't give up, it's worth it a lot of the times. Because...
For us, at least.
Yeah. Because there were a lot of times where I was just like... I just thought mom was so controlling, and I was like, this is gonna turn into some, like, cult story where I just, I get all indoctrinated into some, like, weird-ass cult. But at the same time, I kind of knew that wasn't true, and I was just making up things, so that way I wouldn't have to deal with the struggle of trying to figure out what I was doing.
Or the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, because I really was just scared that I was going to make some mistake and then it would affect, like, the rest of my life.
Yeah. That was my biggest challenge going into homeschooling, too, that by pulling you out for some way it would affect the rest of your life. But as we've learned, and as we've interacted with other homeschool people and families and adults who've been homeschooled, we've learned that, if anything, it does the complete opposite. It helps to enrich the lives of those who are doing it, and...
Also, in case you don't know this, we're not antisocial. Obviously. Based on, at least our experience. The only time we've ever met any kids who were homeschooled that had trouble communicating or... being antisocial or introverted, it was either just like the hallmark of their personality because that's just who they were, or it was because their parents didn't know how to communicate either. So honestly, you really don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
as long as you talk to your kids, you have really no problem.
We, even through quarantine, we talk to Eliana and Robby like they're human beings. Like I said before, we're not their authoritative control.
Ever since I was a baby.
We are four human beings just trying to coexist together, and by being an authoritative figure to our children, we sometimes think that we can't, like, socialize with them, or we can't have real conversations.
You just create monologues like, do the dishes, brush your hair, brush your teeth, go make dinner.
But
Stop doing that.
But no monologues here. Open script.
Yeah, I feel like it was maybe a little bit easier for our family with communication in general because our parents had us so early. They really didn't have, like, any desire to act like...
Yeah, we were kids having kids.
They're like, I'm finally adult. I can do whatever I want. I'm not going to stop swearing just because you came along.
Well, and then we did.
Yeah, 18 years later.
Well,
wait for that day to come.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. Thank you for sitting down with me. And thank you for being you.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for watching. We hope that this information was informative And most of all, we really hope that this inspires you to make the best choice for your family and your household. If you want to see more on this, let us know. We are here to share the knowledge that we have to inspire you to live your most authentic and free life. And this is just one way that we do that. We hope you have a beautiful day, night, week, wherever this finds you.
Dusk, dawn, twilight.
Exactly. And we love you.
Get it? Twilight?